Edward William Buerger was born on August 22nd, 1926. He passed away September 23rd, 2003. He was from Wilmette, Illinois, and he starts this game with D4, Knight F6, C4, and we have a King's Indian defense, no surprise, with G6. Knight C3 and Bishop G7 is the normal variation that we've seen hundreds of times from Bobby Fischer. E4, D6, F3 here. This is Alyekin's anti-Grunfeld variation, and E5 is Samish's variation. Friedrich Samish, if you're not familiar with that name, was born September 20th, 1896, and passed away August 16th, 1975. He was a German chess player and a theorist, and among the inaugural recipients of the Grandmaster title in 1950 when it became standardized and official. Samish's variation, pawn to E5. Now the king's knight comes to E2, and we castle our king behind our pawns. That's where he loves to be. This is the Bobotsov, Korchnoi, Petrosian variation, and I'm sure you've heard of Tigran Petrosian and Viktor Korchnoi, but perhaps you're unfamiliar with Milko Bobotsov, who was the first ever Bulgarian Grandmaster. If you don't know who Viktor Korchnoi or Tigran Petrosian were, where have you been? Tigran Petrosian, of course, world champion just before Spassky, and Viktor Korchnoi, never quite world champion. Anyway, Bobotsov, Korchnoi, Petrosian variation, an opening so sound that it took 3 grandmasters to name it. Bishop to E3 is the orthodox variation, C6, Queen D2, and now the pawn takes the pawn. Knight takes the pawn, pawn D5, C-man takes the pawn, and pawn takes pawn here. And here we have pawn E5, a nice move, gaining some space, hitting the knight, and compelling it to flee to the E8 square, where it will transfer to C7. Pawn F4 reinforces the E-man. Pawn F6 puts the question to the E-man. Knight D to B5. That's not the usual move. Usually Knight F3 is played here. This is quite unusual, and it gets a question mark. The bot calling for Bishop to B5, which is very principled. I don't have a problem with that move, but I'm just telling you, usually Knight F3 is what is played by the top-level players, and that also gets a star. Well, pawn takes the pawn. Queen takes the pawn on D5 with check. I thought he should play knight takes, personally. Oh, I get a big red X for that. Not sure why I get a big red X. The eval bar says I'm slightly better. I'm going to bring my knight out here, and then I will play rook D1. I get this battery. I don't know why I got a big red X for knight takes the pawn. But queen took the pawn, got the star. Queen took the queen, and knight takes the queen. I see, because now knight e7 is a winning move. Yeah, okay, I guess. I can stop it with knight c6, and that's what Bobby plays to prevent knight e7 check. But bishop c5, that's bishop c4, Danny. Oh, he actually played bishop c5. I played the wrong move. I played the natural move and got a star. It actually was bishop c5, and he got an inaccuracy. Woohoo! Coach Daniel played a better move than Buerger. You could also queenside castle here, I would imagine. Nah, inaccurate. I should have stuck with my first choice. Anyway, bishop c5 was played. Rook f7 gets out of the bishop's line of fire. Now bishop c4. And I like this move. I just showed you that move, but you might be able to play pawn takes pawn here, possibly. Pawn takes pawn, bishop e6, queenside castle. Let's see what the bot thinks. Inaccurate. This was my line in my mind. Get a check mark there. Anyway, I wasn't really debating whether bishop c4 was a move. I was just suggesting that that might have been a move. Pawn takes the pawn. Well, here bishop e6 is played anyway, and now white castles to the king's side. Rook d1 is the best move in this situation. Knight a5 hits the bishop. b3. This is an important position here. There's a lot of ways that this could go wrong for white. If he tries to get cute with a move like f5, that you can see gets a question mark. I'm going to capture, and you've really got nothing to show for this weakness created over here. But that's the type of move a lot of beginners want to play. And then you're forced to play b3 anyhow. And, right? And then a6. And black's got the better of it. So be careful about trying to get cute, because it's when you try to get cute that things can get ugly. So b3, definitely the right move by Buerger. Knight takes the bishop anyway, of course. You get this same idea anyway. Well, here black does not take the knight as in the line that I showed. Instead, Bobby tries b6. But again, you could still play the same exact line that I just showed, I would think. Yeah. It's the same thing, it's just different. And really a6 or b6. I showed a6 in the sideline, but b6 here, apparently better. Anyway, b6 was played right here, hitting the bishop, bishop to b4. Now bishop takes the knight, and pawn takes the bishop, pawn takes the pawn. A6 is better. Hit the knight, force the knight to move, maybe knight d6. If knight d6, rook takes pawn, rook takes rook, pawn takes rook. Yeah, that should work. Knight d6, rook takes pawn, rook takes rook, pawn takes rook, and then rook d1, I would imagine, get behind the passed pawn, because rooks belong behind passed pawns. Definitely inferior is to play rook takes f4 here, I think, because that gets the rook directly behind the passed pawn immediately after the trade. See, get a big red. Oh, change it to a check mark. Okay, I mean, black still has the better of the eval bar slightly, but it's not as good as the a6 line, apparently. And the annotator doesn't like this, but the eval bar is showing a half a point to black's good here. Queen's rook to e1, that gets a big question mark. Yeah, rook to d1 is still the best move. Rooks belong behind passed pawns. Say it with me. Rooks belong behind passed pawns. I can't hear you. Rooks belong behind passed pawns. One more time. Rooks belong behind passed pawns. That's right. Well, rook d8. If you're not going to protect your passed pawn, I'm going to attack it. Rook e4, super attacking this pawn. Now a6 hits that knight. Knight d4. Rook takes knight was the best move there. Wow. Really? That's interesting. Let's go back. So rook takes knight, and of course I will rook takes rook. Oh, I see, because of the fork. I'm so blind. Yeah, I just throw in a check here, I think. Make you move your king, and it's hard. I can't save anything. Just move one of the, you know what? I want this. This is not a passed pawn, but I want to keep a rook behind it. So this is the way I'm going to play. Oh, I moved too fast. Let's see what the bot says. Check mark. Oh, it says here. It's the same thing. It is literally the same thing. It's just different. This is another one of those weird bot things. It doesn't matter whether I capture the knight from the side or from the back. It does not matter. So you can ignore the bot there. Yeah, this still slightly favors black because we've got an extra pawn. Anyway, knight d4 was played. Knight f6 hits the rookie and the pawn. And here rook takes the f-man. Battery attacking here. Not the best. I thought knight e6 would have been worth a try. I get a star. And you could always hope for rook takes d5. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. But you can hope. But it's worth a try. Just knight takes the rook and knight takes the rook. I'll still give check here. And after king h1, yeah, I've got you, actually. It doesn't like my move. That's right. Capture the rookie and eat it like a cookie. Oh, yeah. Anyway, rook e f4, and now the knight is pinned to the rook, right? You can't move the knight, or rook takes rook, free for nothing, which is why Bobby played knight takes pawn double exclam for the second game in a row. Bobby Fischer. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. What a great sacrifice. Of course, White's only real hope is to accept this sacrifice, but it was here that Buerger tried the knight e6 move that I recommended on the previous move. And that's, look at, that only gets an inaccuracy, but the eval bar shot up like a rocket. That should be clearly a mistake, or worse. So your only real hope to keep the fight alive is to accept the sacrifice. Now here's the big problem for White. You're losing your knight, and then you're losing your bishop. So you lose 2 minors for that rook. And this should be winning all day long. I'm about to make 2 passed pawns, unless you play something like a4, get a star. But still, this is just all over for White. Let's go back. What a brilliancy. That was brilliant. What a very instructional move this was. Really a great, great, great move by Bobby Fischer. Knight e6 was tried by Buerger, so okay, I'll take the rookie and eat it like a cookie. Yes, definitely, Brem experience, 2 minors are always better than a rook. Always. Better. 2 minors are better than a rook and a pawn, even though that's 3 points, and 3 points is 6 points, and 5 points and 1 point are 6 points. But 2 minors are 2 pieces, and a rook and a pawn is only 1 piece. So, yeah, you're getting actually a pawn, a knight, and a bishop for 1 rook. That's 7 points for 5, and that's 2 pieces for 1. So, knight takes d5, double exclam, knight e6. Knight takes the rookie and eats it like a cookie. Rook takes the knight. Rook takes the rook. And White resigned. He's just too far behind. Doesn't matter which of these rooks that get captured. Well, I guess the problem here, okay, if you come here, I'm going to fork you. But if you don't come there, if you take the rook, I'm just going to take you. Doesn't matter. Okay, I guess I'm so blind. I'm not going to take you. I'm going to mate you. What a knucklehead. Coach Daniel, you move too fast. Slow down, you move too fast. You gotta make your calculations last, yes. Oh, brother. So, okay, that was that. Great game by Fischer. An accuracy of 98.3. Buerger's accuracy was 86.1. And, oh my goodness, the single game rating assessment, 3,000 for Bobby Fischer. A 3,000 rating. Bobby Fischer, as a 14-year-old kid, played like Stockfish back in 1957. Ladles and jelly spoons. Buerger's single game rating, 2,400. Oh my goodness. My goodness. Both players had a really good opening, but Bobby was just on another level in the middle game. A 3,000 single game rating. That's just, my brain hurts even trying to think about that.